I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror, no, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever, there's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from their claw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing, and welcome back to another episode of my weekly podcast called Bout the Ropes. You are listening to Cypher Box. Man, what a week we have had for interesting news in the sport of boxing. Look, I'm going to just quickly run through with you guys what the topics are going to be for this podcast. I'm going to start off with the three main topics. All right, we're going to start off with Luis Ortiz's team. His manager was interviewed by the Boxing Voice, where he openly admitted that it was their fault that Anthony Joshua fight at this moment is not taking place. You heard me right. They've admitted that themselves. All right. Also going to talk about Jarrell Miller, about how he may not face any sort of ban or be issued any sort of fine for his failed drug tests, where he tested positive a couple of weeks ago. It was now, isn't it? Where he tested positive for 3 banned substances. Going to talk about that in detail a little bit, and talk about Triple G's split from his head trainer, long-time trainer, Abel Sanchez. And then I'm going to cover a few little things like Canelo, Amir Khan, Marcus Maidana, and Devin Haney. Some news about those fighters as well. Let's get started. Let's get started with Luis Ortiz, Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn. Okay, so we know what was going on last week. We know what's happened with Jarrell Miller. We know Eddie Hearn was looking for a last-minute replacement. They were after Luis Ortiz. Eddie Hearn, according to reports, made a $5 million offer. Team Ortiz turned it down. Apparently, they were demanding for 10. And there was a lot of talk. Even I gave my points last week, and where I turned around and said, you know what, look, if there's 10 million there available to pay a fighter, pay the fighter 10 million and let's get the fight on. Yeah. If there's 40 million in the pot, AJ gets 30, give the rest, or even 7 or 8 million to Luis Ortiz, and let's get the fight on. It's a last minute fight, etc, etc. But more's come out since then, right? Jay Jimenez, or Jay Jimenez, I think it is, hopefully I'll get his name right, I think it's Jimenez, did a interview with Nestor Gibbs and his panel on the Boxing Voice live last week, and it was interesting to hear what he had to say. And I have to give him a lot of credit, because he was very open and very honest in terms of what had gone on in the negotiations between Eddie Hearn and Luis Ortiz's promoter, who is DAZN Promotions, in terms of making a potential fight between Anthony Joshua and Luis Ortiz when it comes to June 1st at Madison Square Garden. So let's get into it. Let's break down what Jay had to say. Luis Ortiz's manager, Jay Jimenez, had to say on the Boxing Voice. Let's get straight into it, right? So first of all, Jay started off by saying that he jumped the gun himself, right? Where he publicly turned around and said that Eddie Hearn was giving lowball offers and etc. and all that stuff that we were hearing last week, yeah? That these were lowball offers coming from Eddie Hearn, and it was disrespectful, etc. And, you know, they need to pay us more money, right? But he said he had jumped the gun, and the reason he had said those things publicly was because Luis Ortiz's promoter, DAZN Promotions, I can't remember what the actual promoter's name is, but the promotional company is called DAZN Promotion out in Florida or wherever it is, told Luis Ortiz and Jay that Eddie Hearn was playing games, that he was giving lowball offers, and he went on what the promoter was telling him. So he came out publicly himself as well, said, look, these are lowball offers, you know, and that we're not happy with the offers that Eddie Hearn is making at this moment in time. He also stated that the promoter was trying to get more money for Ortiz because he heard a rumor, or he was told, that it was an open checkbook when it came to the purse of the fight for the opponent. So it was an open checkbook for Luis Ortiz, and he heard this rumor, or he'd been told it, and he was chasing after a bigger purse for Luis Ortiz. Apparently, according to Jay, Luis Ortiz was fine with the $5 million offer that was made. And he said, make the fight, I'll take that $5 million. It's for the unified championship, heavyweight championship of the world, Madison Square Garden, let's do this. Because he was confident, he said he was confident, especially at last minute, that they could beat Anthony Joshua. So apparently, according to Jay, his manager, Ortiz's manager, Ortiz was happy with the $5 million offer. Jay himself openly admitted that he was, as Ortiz's manager, he was happy with the $5 million offer also, saying that it's for the unified championship in the world, it's a last minute call fight, $5 million at Madison Square Garden. Me and Luis Ortiz, we were fine with that. We didn't have an issue with it. They didn't. That's what he's saying, apparently, yeah? According to what he said in the Boxing Voice, they were okay with it, right? But apparently, DAZN Promotions turned around and said to Luis Ortiz, hold up. Yeah, don't accept this $5 million offer. I know there's more money in the pot. He's got an open checkbook. Yeah, I can get you a bigger purse. And I guarantee you, Eddie Hearn's going to pay it. Because they need you. They need a name for June 1st. They need you really badly. And you know what? We're going to get more money. I promise you. Right? So Luis Ortiz and even Jay Ibanez, turned around and said, okay, if you think you can get more money for us for this fight, then go and get it. Basically, Luis Ortiz's promoter gassed him and his manager up, basically saying that the money's there, you're going to get it. Trust me, Eddie Hearn will pay the money we're asking for. And of course, it didn't work out that way. In short, Jay said the promoter, Luis Ortiz's promoter, DAZN Promotion, dropped the ball. DAZN Promotion also told Luis Ortiz and his manager that, don't worry, we've got other fights lined up for you, meaning the rematch with Deontay Wilder, and was basically saying that Wilder and Al Heyman, etc. would match what Eddie Hearn's offering right now anyway, plus a percentage of the pay-per-view. So don't worry if you don't get the AJ fight, because you'll get the rematch with Deontay Wilder later on in the year. It'll be for the same money, and you'll get pay-per-view percentage too. Ortiz's manager also went on to say, that's Jay, turned around and said that Ortiz still wants the fight. That when the offer was presented to him, he wanted the fight, and he still wants the fight now, right? At $5 million, okay, from what I understand, all right? Ortiz's manager, Jay Ibanez, has also said the same thing by the sounds of things in that interview, yeah? That he's still interested in having that fight, that it's not really about the money, it's about the opportunity to take on the unified heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, at Madison Square Garden, you know, at a big fight. It's a great opportunity. So they still want the fight. Basically, what Jay said was that they would have taken the fight for the fight itself. But because the promoter said it was an open checkbook and he could get them more money, they held off and said, okay, fine, go get that money, like I said earlier on. Jay was also asked the question, are you saying that Al Heyman is guaranteeing $5 million in the rematch against Deontay Wilder? Jay's answer to that was yes, more than $5 million plus a percentage of pay-per-view. He also turned around and said that that's what the promoter, DAZN Promotion, had told them, and he said that the promoter had better back up his words or he's up shit's creek, right? Because he can then Ortiz can take the promoter to court for loss of income and breach of contract, because if he says I can get you $5 million in another fight, don't worry about this fight. We've got other options, and then those options don't come to pass. You've caused loss of income for Luis Ortiz, right? He was also asked about the potential rematch clause with Anthony Joshua in the contract for the fight, because you know AJ always has a rematch clause in case he loses. Jay said that he didn't care about the rematch clause. They hadn't even actually got that far in terms of talking about a rematch clause. But he said the rematch clause would have worked out to about $12 million for Luis Ortiz. And they said, you know what, we would have been fine with that. Yeah, we would have been fine with that. Whatever the rematch clause was, we would have been fine with it, right? Because obviously he was asked that question because AJ always throws in that 50-50 rematch clause, right? In his fights. And he basically turned around and said that it would have worked out to about 12 million. Again, we wouldn't have cried about that. That's still a lot of money, etc. He also turned around and said, end of the day, we're not Deontay Wilder. He has the WBC belt. He can make those kinds of demands because of his commercial value and the fact that he holds the green belt, the WBC belt. He's a world champion. he's in a position to make any kind of demands he wants to make. He goes, we're not in that position to sit and argue percentages and offers in that way, the way that Deontay Wilder is doing right now. He was also asked, like, you're close to Eddie Hearn, you and Eddie Hearn talk to each other a lot. Why don't you just call Eddie and try and save this whole situation and save the fight? He turned around and said that he can't call Eddie or even Al Heyman to try and save the situation because the promoter deals with it, right? He deals with that, and he is promising other offers, guaranteed money. So the promoter literally has the final say by the sounds of things. Also stating it's the promoter's job to get the offers because Ortiz is contractually signed to the promoter. He also said that for the promoter to turn down $5 million, Al Heyman must be matching more for the Wilder rematch. Now, this was the most important question that the TBV panel put towards Jay Jimenez, that's Luis Ortiz's manager, which was, who's at fault? Who do we blame for this? Who's at fault for this fight between Luis Ortiz and Anthony Joshua not taking place on June 1st? Jay Jimenez turned around and said, he goes, don't ask me that question because you know what? I can't lie. I'm going to end up telling you the truth. And they said, tell us the truth. Come on, spit it out. And he turned around and said, it's absolutely our fault all day, 100%. If we don't get the AJ fight, it's down to greed. He also stated that the promoter has to guarantee something or he's in breach of contract. He repeated himself again at that point in the interview, saying that if the promoter doesn't deliver and guarantee something else of the same value of this fight, then he's in breach of his contract. He was also asked about VADA testing. A lot of people out there saying, oh, you know, Luis Ortiz mid-cycle, he's probably on the juice, that's why he doesn't want to take the fight short notice. I said this midweek in my boxing mailbag video, where I said that Luis Ortiz is signed up to the VADA Clean Boxing Program, the WBC VADA Clean Boxing Program. He's a top 5 heavyweight in their rankings, which means he gets tested regularly, randomly, right? And Jay Jimenez, he turned around and said the same thing. He goes, we're not concerned about that. It's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with the promoter and the demands that he's been making to try and get more money, because he said there's more money in the pot and he could get that money for Luis Ortiz. But what was also interesting was what Jay Jimenez said towards the end of the interview, right? He basically turned around and said that no matter what, Luis Ortiz was going to walk away with $5 million outside of what he had to pay his promoter. So that means the offer from Eddie Hearn was potentially more than $5 million from the sounds of things. Because if you have a promoter and you got to pay a promoter a percentage, right? And you're telling me, Jay Jimenez is saying that Luis Ortiz after the fight would have walked away with $5 million and his promoter still would have got paid, but it wouldn't have come out of that $5 million. That tells me that Eddie Hearn potentially made a bigger offer than $5 million, right? So I don't know how much Eddie Hearn actually offered, because I don't think he's really revealed that, but even I think he said in his interviews that he offered more than $5 million, which means Luis Ortiz would have walked away with $5 million after he paid off his promoter his percentages. Jay Jimenez also turned around and said that Luis Ortiz doesn't really get into the intricacies of the deals and stuff like that, that he lets his team handle that. He just says yes or no, and he goes, he always says yes to every fight. Yeah, he always says yes to a fight. So a $5 million offer to fight AJ for the unified championship of the heavyweight championship of the world at Madison Square Garden on June 1st, he said yes to it. The rest he leaves up to his team, and if they come back to him and say, hold up, we can get more money, he'll say, okay, fine, try and go get more money. If you think I can get paid even more, then try and go and get it. Jay Jimenez also stated at the end of the interview that, look, when there's $40 million in the pot, $30 million of that is going to Anthony Joshua. That leaves you $10 million left over to potentially pay your opponent. He goes, so the money is there. I don't see why he can't just pay the money Eddie Hearn anyway, and let's make the fight. Which is probably a good point as well to throw in there, that if there is $10 million put aside to pay an opponent, Why not give Ortiz 6, 7, 8 million? You know, because from what I understand, and Jarrell, you can go and watch the interview. It's on my Instagram page at Keep It Real Boxing, but it's also obviously on YouTube on Sway's Universe, where Jarrell Miller said that he was getting paid 6 million, 6.5 million, but originally that's what he wanted, and Anthony Joshua didn't want to pay it, so DAZN bumped it up out of their own pocket, and Eddie Hearn bumped it up and promised a little bit of percentage of pay-per-view buys, which potentially would have worked out to about 7 or 8 million. All right. So if that's the case, then why not just make that offer if you've got that money there too? It's a fair point to make, to be honest with you. Now, there was another question that was put towards Jay Jimenez earlier on in the interview, and I forgot to mention that, which was one of the panelists turned around and said to Jay Jimenez was, well, if Luis Ortiz is the boss, tell Luis Ortiz to tell the promoter, go make the fight for $5 million. Get me that $5 million. I want the fight. And Jay Jimenez kind of didn't really ask the question. He went around it. He said, I can't really do that because that's the promoter's job. I can't get involved. That's not my job. That's the promoter's job. Which sounds like to me, I mean, it sounds like the promoter's the one in the driving seat and the one that's in control. Now, I don't know what it says in that contract between Luis Ortiz and his promoter, Dade Promotions. None of us do. But it just sounds like to me like he may have full control over negotiating fights, setting up fights, negotiating purses, rejecting offers and accepting offers. And maybe Jay himself, he's the manager, so he doesn't have a say in that. And maybe even Luis Ortiz doesn't have a say in it at all because of the contractual agreements he has with his promoter. And they're in no position to try and say to him or force him to say, go and do that, go and get that fight at $5 million. Because he could turn around and say, well, no, I'm the one in charge. You signed a contract with me. I get the final say. That's it. And that's what it sounds like to me. But another thing, what if Wilder loses against Vasyl? Yeah, let's be honest. What if Deontay Wilder loses to Vasyl? Right? I'm sure there's a rematch clause in Wilder's contract with Vasyl that if he loses to Vasyl, he gets a rematch immediately. Right? And let's say they have that rematch. And let's say Wilder loses that as well. Where does that leave Luis Ortiz? Is he still guaranteed $5 million versus Dominic Vasyl? Do you know what I mean? How do they generate that money for that fight? You could for the Wilder fight, but you wouldn't put Luis Ortiz and Vasyl on pay-per-view. I don't think you could. So is he still guaranteed that $5 million? That's the thing. That's the risk you're taking here. Look, it sounds like the promoter has gotten greedy here, right? Has got massively greedy here, right? He's seen an opportunity to make more money for himself. Forget for Luis Ortiz, for himself. All promoters operate this way. Not just Dade Promotion, not just Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren, Bob Arum, Oscar De La Hoya, you name them. They all work this way. They don't care about making more money for their fighters, for their fighters' well-being. They care about making more money for themselves. If they can get more money for their fighter, that equals more money for themselves. That's a fact. Yeah. Anyone that doesn't believe that is naive. Yeah. But this promoter definitely got greedy. He thought to himself, I'm hearing it's an open checkbook. All right, he's offered $5 million, but I can squeeze him for more, no doubt. And if I can get him more, that's a bigger percentage for me. That's what it sounds like to me. That's what it sounds like to me. The promoter has got greedy. Jay Jimenez himself in the interview said it's greed on the promoter's behalf. And it sounds like they've got no control over the promoter because they're contractually signed to the promoter. And it sounds like the promoter has the final say because of what it says in that contract between Luis Ortiz and Dade Promotions. I mean, what a complete and utter up on part of Dade Promotions and Team Ortiz as a whole. Complete up. But this is what happens in boxing. Promoters get involved. It's generally not down to the fighters a lot of the time. A promoter gets involved, does the negotiations, sees the honeypot and thinks they can lick it clean. You know, but in the meantime, they screw it up for the fighter. And in this case, a lot of people are probably saying, well, Ortiz is at fault because Ortiz hasn't told his promoter. But if his contractual agreement with his promoters tell him that he doesn't have a final say, that's down to the promoter in terms of the purse and the negotiation and accepting and rejecting offers, then Ortiz's hands are tied, aren't they? Really? Jay Jimenez also stated in the interview, though, that he's hoping that they can still make the fight. You know, I mean, I don't know whether Eddie Hearn's completely closed the doors. I don't think it's Eddie Hearn. Sorry, I correct myself. It's not even Eddie Hearn who I think who's closed the doors. It's DAZN Promotion who have closed the doors. Because DAZN Promotion thought that they could get more money. He tried to negotiate more money with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn stood firm on his offer. And what Jay Jimenez said was that the promoter got angry and shut down the negotiations and said, no, we're not going to accept your offer. We want more. So, and if he's still telling Luis Ortiz that, hey, don't worry, I'll get you the 5 million plus pay-per-view percentages with Deontay Wilder in the rematch, it sounds like the promoter themselves has shut the fight down. Yeah, basically he's allowed his ego to get in the way of this fight happening with Luis Ortiz and Anthony Joshua on June 1st. Yeah, the promoter has got greedy. He's let his ego get in the way. It looks like he might not go back over it and swallow that nasty pill called pride and say to Eddie, you know what? Is that $5 million still on the offer? Is that $5 million offer, still on the table? We'll take it. You know, or go back and say, hey, Eddie, all right, forget the 10 million. Can you offer 6.5 at least, etc., or something like that? Because Luis Ortiz and Jay Jimenez are saying that they're happy with the $5 million offer. So, look, I'm hoping that the door's not completely closed, but at this moment in time, it looks like that. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. There's plenty of time. You know, Eddie Hearn, far as I know, hasn't announced an opponent for Anthony Joshua on June 1st yet. He's talking about Andy Ruiz a lot, in terms of he wants someone to come and bring the fight and really bring it to Anthony Joshua and put him under pressure. And he needs that kind of fighter because it's Anthony Joshua's US debut. This is the fight that's introducing him properly to the US public, right? And the whole idea is to build his brand in America and get more US boxing fans attracted to Anthony Joshua as a big attraction, boxing attraction, right? At the moment, I heard that Eddie Hearn, I just saw an interview with him yesterday. I was debating with someone on one of my videos the other day, and he was talking about, AJ sold this many tickets for Madison Square Garden. Right, yeah, they've sold 17,000 tickets. But guess what? Eddie Hearn just confirmed that 12,000 of those tickets were sold to Brits. Right, and I said this when the fight with Miller was made, right, for his debut in the US, that's pointless. You're not trying to promote Anthony Joshua to the UK fan base. Yeah? The UK fan base have already bought into Anthony Joshua. You're trying to get the US fan base to buy into Anthony Joshua. Yeah? That's what you're trying to do. So if 12,000 Brits have bought 17,000 of those tickets, from a business point of view, in terms of promoting AJ and building his brand in America, that's not great. Because you wanted at least 50% of those fans, or more than 50% of those fans sitting in that arena, being US boxing fans, Americans, right? But anyway, that's beside the point. I've gone a bit off track there. But at the end of the day, look, let's just hope. I'm hoping that they still can make this fight. But what a way to drop the ball from DAZN Promotion and Team Ortiz. You know, they've all probably got their part to play in it, to be honest with you. Is it a duck? From his promoter standpoint, it's a duck. You know, I don't think you can say Luis Ortiz is ducking Anthony Joshua because he clearly wants to fight. So does Jay Jimenez. They're happy to take the $5 million, but the promoters caused the problem. And from the promoter standpoint, it's a duck. If that makes sense. Yeah. Look, but another thing that comes to mind with me as well, before I get off this subject, is that would have Jay Jimenez had come out and said what he said on the Boxing Voice if Eddie Hearn hadn't threatened to come out publicly next week with the information and show the media the offers he made to Luis Ortiz. Because if he hadn't done that, I don't think Jay Jimenez would have jumped on the Boxing Voice. Personally, I think they would have continue with the narrative that they were pushing because they wanted to make more money, right? They wanted to get more money. And Eddie Hearn clearly has receipts, and I think they might have got a little bit scared, thinking, oh shit, we're going to get exposed here, and we're going to look really bad. They look bad anyway, right? So we might as well just come out and admit that actually it's our fault. We were trying to get more money, and it backfired on us big time. But the downside is that Luis Ortiz, the fighter, is the one that loses out in this situation. Yeah, that's $5 million. That's $5 million for his family, etc., and stuff like that. Security, all that sort of stuff. And because the promoter's got greedy, he's now put Luis Ortiz in a position of risk that he may never get that payday. Not just against Anthony Joshua, but against Deontay Wilder either. Like I said, if Deontay Wilder loses, is that money still on the table? Probably not. So looks like Eddie Hearn was telling the truth on this one, guys. And like I said, a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm saying. Because and this is the thing, people think that this is a fanboy channel. It's not a fanboy channel. I call it how I see it, and how I hear it, and how I read it. Right? This is Keep It Real Boxing, and that's what I plan to do. Keep it real with you. I said that from the beginning when I first started this channel. That's what I would do, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing here. Okay, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. Yeah, but I'm not going to be one of these channels that goes around and says and starts twisting it and trying to come up with a narrative to suit an agenda that I'm trying to push. I'm just going to tell you the truth, regardless. So there are going to be a lot of people out there. I know I've got a lot of Wilder fans and US boxing fans who subscribe to my channel, and the reason they probably subscribe to my channel is because of what I say about the whole Wilder AJ situation, which I still stand by the way. I haven't changed my mind about that, so don't get it twisted. But on this situation, you can only call it how you see it and how you hear it, and especially when the guy's done an interview openly admitting, saying that it's their fault. It's not Eddie Hearn's fault, it's not Anthony Joshua's fault, it's Team Ortiz's fault. And you've got to call it, right? Simple as that. So for those guys who've jumped on here thinking I'm some sort of Wilder fanboy and Luis Ortiz protector and all this sort of stuff, I know how boxing fans' minds work. That's not the case. Like I said, this is Keep It Real Boxing, and I'm going to keep it real. And it looks like Eddie Hearn isn't in the wrong on this one. He's made a good offer. Yeah, and I did say it was a good offer, but he's made a good offer. Ortiz clearly said, fine, let's take it. That's a good offer. I'm not going to say no to that. Jay Jimenez said that. But unfortunately, Dade Promotion, Luis Ortiz's promoter, who has the final say by the sounds of things, he wasn't happy with it because he got greedy and he wanted more money. And now the fighter loses out. And not only that, we as boxing fans will potentially lose out on this fight. Remember, Jay Jimenez also said in the interview, and I've got to touch on this. Jay Jimenez also said that they liked the fact that it was a last minute ditch to get him in there. Yeah, that it was a last minute call. They liked it. They were comfortable with 4 or 5 weeks notice to fight Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua wouldn't have time to spar southpaws. He hasn't been sparring southpaws, etc. Anthony Joshua wouldn't have time to prepare for a southpaw like Luis Ortiz. You know what I mean? So it would have been a more difficult fight for Anthony Joshua, because Luis Ortiz would be coming into that ring as a southpaw, and AJ wouldn't have had time to prepare for that. So it sounds like to me like Jay Jimenez is saying that it was in our favour, more in our favour, to take the fight last minute like that, because we could surprise AJ and potentially get that win, or actually get that win and beat him, because they were confident they could beat him anyway with 12 weeks notice, but they said we were even more confident we could beat him with 4 or 5 weeks notice. So look, it sounds like a complete mess. You know, they've seriously dropped the ball there. You know, if it was me, that promoter needs to swallow his pride and ring up Eddie Hearn and say, look, hey, my fighter's cool with it, the manager's cool with it, let's make the deal. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But at the same time, you could turn around and say, Eddie could turn around and say, look, final offer. Eddie Hearn could come back and say, final offer. I'll give you 7 million. Final offer, take it or leave it. Yeah, if you want it, it's there. Yeah, he could also turn around and say, hey, I'll give you 6.5 million. Yeah, I don't know. But end of the day, the fault really is with Team Ortiz. They've openly admitted it, and from what I'm hearing, I can't deny it either. Eddie Hearn he's not in the wrong here. Team Ortiz is, and it's a shame. Like I said, you know, unfortunately, the fighter misses out, but more importantly, we miss out as boxing fans. Okay, so on to Jarrell Miller. Now, Mike Coppinger put these tweets out last week, and there's been a few articles since then regarding this whole topic again. And basically the tweet said this: much speculation around Jarrell Miller's potential suspension after 3 PEDs found in his system. Well, he allowed his boxing license to expire in New York. No disciplinary action can be taken at this moment as he is not currently licensed with the New York State Athletics Commission, the commission told me. That means Big Baby is free to apply for a license anywhere, and it will be up to that individual commission whether they want to license him. Had his license been active, New York State Athletics Commission could have imposed a ban other commissions would have honoured. I don't know which news is worse, whether it's Luis Ortiz's team and the fact that they dropped the ball in their negotiations to fight Anthony Joshua on June 1st, or whether it's that this guy, Jarrell Miller, a PED cheat, is gonna get away with cheating. Now let me just basically break it down for you. There's gonna be no ban, no fine. Why? Because his license has expired, okay, with the New York State Athletics Commission. And because they have no, I suppose, jurisdiction over him or authority over him in terms of his license, because he doesn't have a license with them anymore, because he had let it expire, they can't impose any sort of ban or fine on him. This is a bit that I kind of want to give you guys some food for thought and want your opinion on. Do you think Jarrell Miller purposely allowed his license to expire with the New York State Athletics Commission because he knew he was juicing, and he knew that if he gets caught, that he wouldn't suffer any sort of financial fine or a banning order or anything like that, because he knew his license had expired, if that makes sense what I'm trying to say. So basically he kind of predicted it, that if I get caught, because I've let my license expire, they can't do jack shit to me. I think that's the case here, right? Which makes his cheating even worse, because he knowingly took those substances, but also in the back of his mind worked out a way and found a loophole in the system which would not allow the New York State Athletics Commission to ban him or fine him or impose any sort of disciplinary action on him. And not only that, he knew he could still go get another license with another boxing commission or athletics commission, state athletics commission in America. But I did read an article with TalkSport here in the UK, and it basically said that despite the fact that the New York State Athletics Commission couldn't do anything to him, they couldn't ban him or anything, all they could do was reject his request for a boxing license to fight in the state of New York. That's all they could do to him. That perhaps the boxing commissions could do something, which is the WBO, WBC, IBF, and who else was I missing out? The WBA. If they all turned around and said, well, they could all turn around and say, well, we're all issuing you a ban for a year or whatever, and we're not going to rank you. We're not going to put you in our rankings. We're going to ban you from our rankings, and we're not going to allow you to have a title shot for 2 years or something like that. That they could do that. There is that option. But remember what I said to you last week. Remember what I said to you last week when I spoke about this in depth, right? And when I used Dave Allen's interview when he was asked about drug cheats and Jarrell Miller, right? One thing he said about PED cheats and the system and how drug testing works in boxing, he turned around. One thing that came out of that interview was he said nobody cares. None of these top level guys care. None of these promoters, broadcasters, managers, boxing commissions, none of them care. Yeah, they only make it out like they care once someone gets caught. Otherwise, they don't give a damn, because boxing is a business and they all stand to lose money. So with this whole situation with Miller, they lost a lot of money potentially through sanctioning fees and all that sort of stuff, right? So they don't care. So will the top 4 boxing commissions, that's the WBC, WBA, IBF and WBO, take some sort of action. It'll be interesting to see. I don't believe they will, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe one of them does, but not all of them, because none of them, they don't work together unified as one. Remember that they're commissions that are in competition with each other. So look, bottom line is though, look, it's sad to hear that there's a loophole there that he found, or that he had pre-planned to use if he got caught, which is what I think the case is. But that's how it works out, unfortunately, out there in America. Here in the UK, we've got the British Boxing Board of Control, one governing body looking after boxing here in the UK. So that wouldn't have happened here. And second of all, in America, yeah, you have to admit, it's a massive country. They have so many states out there, right? To have one boxing governing body to look after US boxing, I don't know if that poses a problem or not, yeah? So they rather have each state govern themselves. It's like some of their laws out there, you know, one state will have a different law from another state, yeah? So it's the same principle, but it doesn't really help in the long run. I hope none of those commissions give him a license, but then again, you don't know if there's some sort of legality issue there as well. You know, if they refuse him a license, if another commission refuses him a license, can he take it to court and say, hey, well, I never actually got banned there and this and that, etc., so they have to give me a license? I don't know. I really don't know. But if he does get away with this and he's allowed to continue to fight, then you know what, it's not great for the sport, and it's a real stain on the sport, in my opinion. But let me know what you think about this situation, because I'm telling you now, I'm not happy about it, and it just seems like PED abusers just get away with it. We've had, in my opinion, I've said this before, all these state athletics commissions turn around and say, oh, first time you failed a drug test is the first time you've been caught, so we'll give you a 6-month ban with a little fine. Well, 6 months to a fighter, that's a break between fights. For a top level, elite level fighter, that's a break between fights. It's nothing. You're not hurting them. It's not even a ban. It's not actually a ban. It's like, go and have a little break, you know, go away and have your break, and we'll call it a ban. You know, that's not a ban. You need to at least give them a minimum of a year and hit them hard, man. Fine them like $1 million and say, look, we're fining you $1 million. Here you go. Cough up. You know, really hurt them. You know, but these little soft little slaps on the wrist, it's all right. Oh, you poor thing. You know, it's your first time. We'll let you off. No. They need to get tougher. But like Dave Allen said in his interview last week, nobody cares, because no one wants to, because it hurts them in the pocket as well. And until they start doing the kind of things I'm suggesting to you, you know, it's going to continue this way. So get used to it. Okay, so let's move on to the next big news of the week, which was Triple G announcing he's splitting from his longtime trainer, Abel Sanchez. So Triple G made this announcement over social media, and this is what he had to say. I would like to announce that I have made a major decision for myself and for my career. I want to build on what I have already achieved and continue to better myself. Therefore, I will not be training with Abel Sanchez. This was not an easy decision for me, and it is not a reflection on Abel's professional abilities. He is a great trainer, a loyal trainer, and a Hall of Famer trainer. I will be announcing my new trainer at a later date, but today I want to thank Abel for the lessons he taught me in boxing. Abel Sanchez, however, wasn't taking it lying down. He came out swinging, right? And he said to Yahoo Sports, as of today, I will no longer be working with Gennady Golovkin. After a great 9-year run, records set and equaled, developing a Hall of Fame career and making it possible to sign a 6-fight, $100 million contract with DAZN, he proposed instead on an insulting new trainer compensation schedule. Right? He says, my dignity and my honor does not allow me to be screwed like that. It's unfortunate. Being greedy, being ungrateful, and no ethics, honor, or integrity will end this relationship. But it didn't end there. Abel Sanchez went on to reveal a little bit of what went on in terms of what Triple G was proposing to him. And he basically said it wasn't a percentage deal, it was a fixed, guaranteed payment kind of deal, right? And he basically said that he was offering, Triple G offered Abel Sanchez a fifth of what he was earning, right? For the remainder of the 6 fights that he has with DAZN, right? So basically what he was saying is that, let's say Abel Sanchez made $5 million, $5 million out of his percentages, whatever it was, for his fight in Triple G's last fight against Canelo, the rematch. And let's say his pay was $5 million from that. Triple G said, I'm offering you 1/5 of what you made in that last fight, which would have been $1 million for the remainder of the 6 fights. So it's $1 million for 6 fights. That's what Triple G was offering his trainer, his longtime trainer, Abel Sanchez, in this new deal. Sanchez even said that he offered a counter proposal to Triple G's offer, okay, but he didn't hear anything. Apparently for weeks it went, it was radio silence. And then finally, Tuesday of last week, he got a call from Triple G and his brother saying that, we're no longer going to continue with you, we're going to replace you, basically, and he said, okay, thanked them. He was on a 55-minute run with his team or something like that. But he said he knew it was inevitable. He said it was unfortunate. He goes, the guy signs a $100 million contract. He said it was disheartening, heartbreaking. He says about the honor of a man, right? Meaning Triple G. He said, I never try to sugarcoat anything and I always expect everyone else to be the same. So basically he's saying that, look, this is how it really was. I don't try and lie about it. I tell you the truth. This is how it went down. It's disappointing, but that's how it is. Sanchez also said in an interview with Behind the Gloves and said that it was less than what a trainer normally gets. It was basically a flat fee, no percentage. And he said it was disappointing. Even there, when he was talking to Michelle Joy Phelps, he was like, it is disappointing. He goes, because it's not only the fighter who, a lot of people were talking about, the fighter, he's got to lose time with his family to go and fight and train and sacrifice so much. Well, Abel Sanchez touched on something, and I agree with Abel Sanchez. So does the trainer. The trainer has to do that as well. If the fighter's making those sacrifices, so does the trainer, because the trainer is always with the fighter. He's training the fighter. He's in camp with the fighter, etc., etc. So they're both making the exact same sacrifices. So all this talk that people are doing over social media need to shut up, because the trainer makes exactly the same sort of sacrifices. The only difference is he doesn't go in the ring and take the beating, of course, but he still makes those other sacrifices for his fighter. Not only that, they've been together for 9 years. Abel Sanchez took on Triple G when no one knew who he was. He built Triple G from the ground up into the superstar that he is now, the global superstar that he's turned into, right? The big name in boxing that he is now, right? You took a fighter who no one was interested in. Back then when he started Triple G, no one was looking at the Eastern European fighters. There they are now. There's like a conveyor belt of Eastern European fighters coming off. But Triple G was the one who probably opened that door for most of the Eastern European fighters, right? Okay. And Abel Sanchez was the one who trained him, who built him from ground up to where he is right now. And it's now like you're saying, hey, you know what? I don't care what you've done for me. Here you go. Take peanuts and be happy with it. And Abel Sanchez, rightly so, has turned around and said, hey man, I'm not doing that. You're not treating me like that. See you later. I'm off. I'm not accepting your offer. I think that's a little bit cold, if you ask me. It's a little bit cold. You made $100 million, plus I'm sure there's probably incentives involved in that as well with the DAZN deal. You can't just you don't have to give him more money, but at least honour what you already do with him, whatever the deal is right now with him. A guy who's worked with you, who's sacrificed with you over the 9-year period to build you into the boxer and the star and the world champion that you were, and the fighter that you still are now, and to get you to this point where you got this massive deal with DAZN, the most money you've ever made, and then to turn around and say, get out of here. You know what, either take this small bit of money I'm offering you for the next 6 fights, or get out of here, is literally what he said to him. I think that's a little bit cold, in my opinion. And I can understand why Abel Sanchez is feeling like, hey man, this kid's ungrateful, you know. But part of me thinks as well, is Triple G a little bit angry and upset with Abel Sanchez because of the things he said after the rematch against Canelo Alvarez, which he lost? Where Abel Sanchez, if you notice, the first fight, Abel Sanchez was saying, nah, it was a robbery, Triple G won, the judges robbed him, the winner was Triple G, etc. In the second fight, afterwards, he was giving Canelo Alvarez a lot of praise. And I did a video back then, and he even actually said in the interview, you know what, I'm not going to take anything away from anyone. It was a close fight. You know, they both put on a great performance. They're both superstars. He goes, did Canelo do enough to win the fight? I think so, yeah. All right, and there was loads of interviews where he wasn't, one interview where he was saying, oh, it was a close fight, it could have gone either way. But I remember that one interview where he actually in the end turned around and said, did Canelo win the fight? Probably, he probably did just enough. You know, he surprised us, he brought the Mexican style and all that sort of stuff. And he was praising Canelo a lot. Whereas Triple G was saying, no, I was robbed again, I should have won the fight. Tom Loeffler was saying the same thing. Oh no, this was a robbery again. You know, Triple G's been conned out of his, of a win again. You know, he's been robbed by the judges again. So they were still pushing that even for the rematch. But Abel Sanchez was like, no, I can't say that. He says, I've got to be honest with you. He goes, it was a great fight. You know, Canelo really brought it. And he believed that Canelo might have done enough potentially to win the fight. It was a close fight though, but it was a great fight. Let's celebrate it. So I wonder if Triple G was perhaps a little bit upset by that. Maybe his brother, who's in his corner as well, whispered a little bit in Triple G's like, why has he said that for? Tom Loeffler maybe, and when other people around you are talking to you, they get into your head. And in his head, eventually he turns around and says, you know, why did he say that? Yeah, he hasn't got any belief in me. Oh, he's not on my side. He should have been backing me. He should have been saying the same thing as I'm saying. And maybe he's got upset about that, held a bit of a grudge against Abel Sanchez. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to offer you a little bit of money and I know you're going to turn it down and piss off. You know, could be that could be the case too. Let's not forget that. You know, maybe Triple G's a little bit upset with Abel Sanchez. Whatever it is, look, end of the day, it's all over between these two guys. A lot of people are saying that it's a sad thing to see. I think, was it Sam Jones, who's Joy Joyce's manager? Obviously, Joy Joyce was for a short period of time recently, was being trained by Abel Sanchez. And they saw the relationship, they said, between Triple G and Abel Sanchez. And they said it was like, Sam Jones turned around and said, he goes, I'm shocked. He goes, like, it's like father and son, really, between those two. And he goes, I'm shocked it's come down to this. He goes, and it's sad to see that money's come in the way or whatever the reasons are. He said, but he goes, there's no way you would have expected that. Even Eddie Hearn said, he goes, I can't believe it. He goes, I'm shocked that those two have split. They're so tight. So did Freddie Roach. So there could be multiple reasons here as to why this has ended the way it has, but it has ended, and it looks like Triple G is going to be looking for a new trainer. Who that new trainer is, I have no idea. You know, whether he thinks he doesn't really need a trainer, and he can let his brother, who I think was an amateur boxer as well, back home in Kazakhstan or whatever. You know, he used to be an amateur boxer as well. So maybe he just lets him take the lead, or I don't know. You know, does he get another trainer and pay them less? But the thing is, the other trainers aren't going to take less either. They're going to want the industry standard, which I think, was it 10%? Whatever the industry standard is, they're going to want the same anyway. So I don't know how this all going to work out for Triple G. But he talked about, in his statement, Triple G said, I achieved this, I've done this, I've done that, I want to better myself. Don't get me wrong, maybe there's a case from Triple G where he thinks, I've had 2 fights with Canelo and I need to work on my defenses as well. Abel Sanchez isn't the sort of trainer that's great at training his fighters defensive boxing. Yeah, he's all about push forward and fight and close the distance and close the gap and you know, apply pressure, you know, take a punch to land a punch if you have to. He's not really about defense, let's be honest. So maybe Triple G's thought to himself, oh, maybe this guy ain't for me. If I want to beat Canelo, maybe I need someone who can actually teach me defense, good defense, and how to box and move. Who knows? It could be, like I said, there could be multiple reasons behind this decision when it comes to Triple G. We just don't know unless he comes out openly and says it. But like I said, interesting news. Shame to see, because I think the two guys complement each other. But look, that's how it goes sometimes in boxing. Yeah, these things happen, right? But let me know what you think about it, guys. Okay, so I just want to touch on a few other bits of news from last week. One was Tom Loeffler. As we're on Triple G, might as well talk about this. Tom Loeffler told Fight Hub TV that apparently Canelo Alvarez has a clause in his DAZN contract which states he has to give Triple G a third fight, and that fight will potentially happen this fall. Canelo Alvarez has come back and said this: "There is no clause in my contract that forces me to fight against him for a third time. But if he wins the title of the World Boxing Organization, then I will be ready to see him again. I want to be the undisputed middleweight champion of the world." Right, so basically what he's saying there, Canelo, is that my priority right now is to be the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. Triple G is no longer my priority. I've beaten him twice. I'm not worried about him anymore. However, if he goes and picks up a title, which is the world world title off of Demetrius Andrade, he goes, then he will become my priority again, because I want to be undisputed, and that means if he's holding a world title, I'll see him again. So basically what he's saying is, go get a world title, you get a third fight. Don't get a world title, you're not my problem anymore. I've beaten you twice already. The funny thing is, Tom Loeffler also last week turned around and said that when he was asked about fighting Demetrius Andrade for the WBO title, he said, if it makes sense, we'll make the fight. But our priority is obviously getting a third fight with Canelo, right? And he said, oh, he's got a clause in his contract and the fight will happen this fall, right? But Canelo's turned around and said basically, no, there isn't. Stop lying. Yeah? I don't have to fight you if I don't want to, and all I care about right now is being undisputed. Whoever's got that WBO belt, that's who I'm going to go after. Providing he gets past Daniel Jacobs, of course. I don't want to be disrespectful to Daniel Jacobs. That's a tough fight for Canelo, no doubt about it. So he has to get past Daniel Jacobs, and then once he gets past Daniel Jacobs, or if he gets past Daniel Jacobs, should I say, then he's going to want to go after the other belt, which is Demetrius Andrade and that WBO belt. Right, and then probably once he becomes undisputed, maybe he defends it once, maybe he doesn't, and then move up to 168 pounds. That's what I'm predicting, right? Triple G, on the other hand, his team are like, well, if it makes sense, we'll make that fight with Demetrius Andrade. Well, it clearly does make sense, Tom, because if you want that third fight with Canelo, you're going to need that WBO title. You need a world title. He's not bothering with you otherwise. Yeah? So he's fighting, what's that guy's name? Steve Rolls, who's not even ranked in the top 15 of any of the four major boxing commissions, the WBA, WBC, IBF, or WBO. I've always ranked on, what's he ranked on BoxRec? 93, 94, something like that. Right, okay, easy hand-picked confidence building fight, make himself look good. But after that fight, he probably wants to get straight into negotiations with Demetrius Andrade. But the problem is that I don't think they want to fight Andrade. I've said this before. Tom Loeffler, even last year, after the Canelo fight, said, he goes, when the WBC ordered that final eliminator between him and Jermall Charlo, turned around and said, oh, well, there's no need to make that fight. That fight's not necessary. It's not going to happen. So they ducked Jermall Charlo. And this is when they weren't signed to DAZN, so they could have done, and HBO had closed down as well, so you're a free agent. You could have had one and done on, actually a reporter asked him that, he goes, Tom, why don't you just do one and done on Showtime and fight Jermall Charlo and then go back to hunting down Canelo? He goes, oh, that fight's not going to happen with Jermall Charlo. It's not necessary, there's no need for it. So, didn't want anything to do with Jermall Charlo. I don't personally think they want anything to do with Demetrius Andrade. We know he doesn't want to give Daniel Jacobs a rematch. And he's turned around and even said, even if Canelo loses to Daniel Jacobs, he wants to fight Canelo, not Daniel Jacobs, who would have all the belts or would be unified middleweight champions. He said that himself. But yet on the flip side, he's turned around and said, Triple G, he'll fight anyone and everyone. Okay, so why don't you fight Jermall Charlo? Right? Why don't you fight Demetrius Andrade next? Or have your little tune-up and then set up a fight for this fall to fight Demetrius Andrade. Immediately. Do that negotiation now. And then you could fight Canelo in a third fight. What a story that would be. but it doesn't appear he wants to go down those roads. He just wants that fight. I think he wants that fight with Canelo Alvarez. There's a lot of money in it to be made. He's already getting his guarantee for DAZN. I'm sure there'll be some upsides to it as well, incentives, other percentages that might get thrown on top of it. Make a heck of a lot of money again, and then maybe fight, subpar opponents for the rest of his 4 or 5 fights, or his last 4 fights with DAZN, because he's got a 6-fight deal, right? That's how it sounds like to me. And for me, from my point of view, Triple G, and yeah, I know the Triple G fans are going to jump on there and start screaming and everything, but when you make comments like that, when your team's talking like that, it doesn't put you in a good light. Yeah, it just looks like you're after that one big payday, and then you're happy to kind of like fight out the rest of your contract with DAZN and retire. That's what it looks like to me. Let me know what you think anyway, guys. Okay, I quickly want to touch on Amir Khan. I didn't get to do a Fight Night Rewind video. So, did Amir Khan quit against Terence Crawford? Simply put, yes, he did. Alright? I don't care what anyone else out there says, that Amir Khan's never been like that. He's always been a fighter and all that sort of stuff. Listen, Amir Khan, 10 years ago, wouldn't have quit. Amir Khan, 5 years ago, probably wouldn't have quit. But the Amir Khan, the version of Amir Khan now, did quit. And I'm going to explain why. First of all, he had moments in the fights where he looked alright, but there were very few and far between. Terence Crawford was all over him, right? He made that same mistake that I always talk about when it comes to Amir Khan, yeah? Is that he throws out that lazy jab, that lazy left jab, and because it's loose, his opponent always comes over the top of it, clocks him in the jaw. Not only that, when he throws that lazy left jab out, he sticks his chin up in the air, and then when the punch comes in, he leans back. And of course, the other thing is, obviously, which is what Ben Davison picked up on in terms of his breakdown of the fight and prediction, is that Amir Khan always has his feet parallel to each other when he's in that situation. So there's no real balance there either, and he gets knocked down, right? So he got hit, he wobbled, Crawford came in, with the left hook, knocked him down, right? After that, he was shaken up. Amir Khan, I even noticed it against Samuel Vargas when he fought Samuel Vargas. His legs are not the same, yeah? That speed and that accuracy isn't as great as it used to be, yeah? He used to be really fast, very accurate. He isn't anymore. He seems like he's all over the place. It's a mess to watch him sometimes. I think, God, man, you never used to be like that, right? Okay, he's coming over with these wild punches. Don't get me wrong, he showed at moments he was showing game. I think the second or third round he was trying to make a fight of it. And then when Crawford started going to work with him and started putting those punishing body shots in and switching it to head, body, and really starting to put it on him, yeah, it was a low blow. I'm not saying it wasn't a low blow. It wasn't really in the nuts. It was more in the hip, in the upper thigh hip area, right? If you look at the picture, all right? And there's the pick, right? So you can see there's his leg. It's more on the upper thigh hip area, nowhere near his nuts. So I don't know what he was talking about, yeah? But it definitely wasn't a low blow in his genital areas, yeah? His testicles, as he was saying, right? And as soon as that happened, you could tell he already by his face, I thought, you're going to pull out. Even Terence Crawford looked at him like, what's going on? Oh man, he's going to pull out. And you could hear Virgil Hunter in the corner. He's telling Virgil no, shaking his head. He had 5 minutes, right? Virgil Hunter saying, so what are you going to do? You want to come out? You want to pull out? You want me to call it? And he's like, yeah, okay, call it, done. So it wasn't actually Virgil Hunter who called it. He asked Amir Khan. Go watch it again. He asked Amir Khan, do you want to come out? And he said, yeah, I want to come out. Okay, that's it, it's done. He don't want it anymore. Yeah, simple fact of the matter. That is it. He quit, right? And then he's talking about, well, I would never quit. It really hurt and I couldn't keep going. He didn't even take the 5 minutes. He took like 40 seconds to make that decision. Like if you took 5 minutes, a few deep breaths like most boxers do when they get a really bad low blow. Some of them like to crouch down and kind of come back up and shake their leg out a little bit and, walk around a little bit and say, okay, let's go, ref. Do you know what I mean? He didn't even do that. He didn't even try that. He wanted out. He wanted to get out of that fight. You could tell he didn't want to be there anymore. Okay, and he was saying that, I don't quit, I've never quit. You look at my career, I wouldn't have quitted, I would rather be knocked out. Okay, so why don't you just go and get yourself knocked out? You said, I'd rather not be knocked out than quit. So what you should have done is taken the 5 minutes or taken 2 minutes or whatever and said, all right, ref, let's keep going, and limped along and said, oh, I'm good. And then just stood there and let Terence Crawford come to you and finish the job. When he starts loading those combinations up on you, the referee either would have stopped it or he would have knocked you down, and you could have stayed there on the ground and not got back up. See what I mean? What he says doesn't make sense, right? So sorry, but Amir Khan quit. That's the end of it. And he put this tweet up saying that, oh, I'm peeing blood, shot was low. Like, it's not the first time I'm sure Amir Khan's pissed blood after a fight. Yeah, I've heard Danny Garcia talk about it in an interview. He goes, I've pissed blood, I've shit blood after a fight. Yeah, you know, remember Floyd Mayweather, what's that guy's name? Nate Jones, who used to be part of Floyd Mayweather's camp. He used to turn around, he used to stand there with the body bag or whatever it is, and Floyd would start practicing body shots on him and stuff like that. And he goes, he's pissed shit blood from just doing that. It's quite common with fighters, and this is why I respect fighters so much, because of what they put their bodies through, right? But it's nothing new for a fighter to experience that, and I'm pretty sure Amir Khan's probably experienced that before. So it's just like you're just trying to, cover up the excuses, the fact that you quit. So you know what? It is what it is. It's a shame he quit, but remember, Amir Khan's had a tough career. He's had tough fights. He's been in some brutal fights. He's experienced some brutal knockouts. And don't get me wrong, he's had some great achievements as well. But eventually the body will give way. We've seen it happen before with fighters like Amir Khan, who depend and rely on speed, and explosiveness. Like Roy Jones Jr. Once that speed and that explosiveness went, Roy Jones' career went. Look at David Haye recently against Tony Bellew. Once his speed and his explosiveness disappeared, that's it. That was the end of David Haye. You look at Manny Pacquiao even now. He's starting to show certain signs of that. He's not got that same speed and that same explosiveness he used to have. And that'll happen to him eventually soon as well. And the same is with Amir Khan. These fighters who rely on speed and explosive power, once that starts deteriorating and they've been in a few hard fights, that's it. It's over for them. I don't know whether he should retire or not. That's not my decision. That's up to him. But you know what I mean? I don't know what else Amir Khan could do in boxing. Hopefully he could prove us wrong. But in terms of the Terence Crawford fight, he quit. Okay, if you haven't already heard, then let me tell you, Marcus Maidana has pulled back on his comeback to boxing. He's basically said that he's not coming back to boxing, he's staying retired. He's flown back to Argentina. You might have seen him on his Instagram if you've been following him like I have. He's been training hard, he's been dropping the weight. He actually lost, I think, 44 pounds in the last since he started training again. You look at his meals, like, my God, they are tiny at the moment, yeah? But he's been working hard, don't get me wrong. And I thought, wow, you know what? He's actually serious about this comeback. And now he's decided that, you know what? I'm not going to come back. It's too much. There's certain things that weren't right, is what he said, and he's not coming back. Look, I said it was going to be difficult. Over 4 years, when this was originally announced, I did a video on it. And I said it's been over 4 years since he's been an active boxer or been in any sort of competitive tough fights. He's blown up to something like 200 pounds in that time. Stupid amounts of weight he's put on, and it was going to hurt him when he returned to come all the way back down to 147 pounds. And it was risky and dangerous, right? That he could get knocked spark out in his first fight. Okay, it's massively risky. And how much can the body take, especially when you hit a certain age? Your body, it's harder to lose weight when you hit a certain age. It's just like it's hard to put on, lean muscle mass at a certain age. Your body doesn't do that anymore. The older you get, the harder it gets. And I'm guessing he wasn't feeling right physically from it all, and turned around and said, look, I can't do this. I'm going back home. I'm retired. It's done. So it looks like Marcus Maidana will not be returning to boxing by the sounds of things. New signing for DAZN and Matchroom USA. They've signed young and talented Devin Haney, the lightweight, American lightweight. contender. Well, you could call him contender, I suppose. He's a young, hot prospect from the US. If you don't know who Devin Haney is, who's currently ranked 3rd by the WBC. He's ranked 5th by the WBA. He's ranked 10th by the IBF and 8th by the WBO. Okay. Devin Haney, real good young talent prospect. He doesn't want to consider himself as a prospect this year. He says he sees himself as a contender. I remember when he did his last fight on Showbox, and he says that he wants to go for a world title this year. Good signing from Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and obviously for DAZN. Very talented young fighter, up and coming. Look forward to see how that story unfolds. You know, we'll get a bit more exposure to him. Obviously, if you're in the UK, if you have Sky Sports, you get all the DAZN fights as well, so we will see him in action. I just want to say, I think it's a really good signing from Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and DAZN. Last bit of news, guys. So everyone's getting excited about a potential fight between British heavyweights Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce recently just signed this week, announced that he's signing with Frank Warren and Queensberry Promotions. That's including with BT Sports. Good signing for Frank and BT over there. Great fight, great matchup. Everyone's saying that it's been ordered, or the British Boxing Board of Control has said that they've agreed terms between these two guys and they're going to fight. From the interviews I'm hearing and reading and seeing, you know, I've seen Joy Joyce. Joy Joyce has basically turned around and said fighting Dubois right now anyway would be a step down for him, because right now he's the mandatory for the European belt, but he's also the mandatory to Manuel Char's WBA regular belt in the WBA rankings. So he goes, going backwards to fight Dubois would be a step backwards for him, or a couple of steps backwards for him. He says it's not a great fight, you know, maybe it happens, he goes, but it would be a step backwards for him. Dubois seems up for it as well. You know, the two of them obviously were standing next to each other after Dubois' fight this weekend on Saturday, which he won. And it didn't sound like the fight was made or agreed, or they were ready to announce anything just yet. It seems like a bit of a grey area. You know, Joe Joyce said, like, look, we'll have to wait and see what Frank says. I'm fighting, you know, in the next month or so, whenever, and then we'll see what Frank says and we'll see what my options are. So I'm not getting overly excited that fight's going to happen anytime soon, but it looks like a fight that they're looking at down the line by the looks of things. And you know what? It makes for a great fight. It's good to see if we get these two in there with each other. At least they're willing to risk it all against each other when it comes to the heavyweights, because I'm getting frustrated with the heavyweight division as a whole anyway. But it does make for a good fight, you know, and hopefully they can get that one across the line. Okay, guys, so that's it for me on this one, guys, on this week's podcast. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Remember, check me out on social media as well. Check me out on Instagram at Keep It Real Boxing. Follow me on Twitter at Keep It Real Box, and obviously check me out on Facebook, Keep It Real Boxing. Like I said, you know what I mean? If you enjoyed the content that you've heard today and you've been watching today, hit that like button, share it with your friends, and until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.
I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lennox is a conqueror, no, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever, there's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I wanna eat his children. Praise be to Allah.